Good morning, beautiful people. It's Dina, bringing another daily dose. This morning I was doing some devotionals and just getting ready for my day. And I just wanted to give a shout out to another YouTube person that I have been following for a long time. She doesn't know me and I don't know her personally, but her content has enriched my life and blessed my life so much. And so she happened to post a devotion that she wrote, and it just really spoke to me, and I wanted to share that. So I wanted to give a shout out. Her name is 𝗂𝗵𝘁, and she's from Restoring and Preserving Marriage. Sometimes we don't know, how much somebody can impact us. And as I've mentioned before, I believe it's very important for us to have mentors and coaches and all of that. When I finally got to that point in my life and realized that I could not navigate any further on my own, I had gone as far as I could on my own. And so then I, really looked into understanding who God could place into my life as a mentor. And I've paid for coaches, as well as most of my, training has come from people like 𝗂𝗵𝘁 or these online influencers, and I pray that my content will, encourage and equip you to do what God has called you to do as a special needs mom or a mom navigating extreme parenting situations. So anyway, thank you, 𝗂𝗵𝘁, for all the blessings that you have contributed to my life in the deepest, darkest seasons of my life, walking through hard times. Your content is what was life-giving to me. So I wanted to kind of touch on a few things that she shared in her devotional today that actually apply to this channel and what we walk through as special needs moms or wives that might even be walking through a difficult season in their marriage. And so, as I've said before, there is a connection between being in an extreme parenting situation or a special needs situation where it affects the marriage. 87% of marriages end in divorce that have a special needs child. Honestly, even in foster care and in difficult situations like that, there's a high rate of divorce as well. So anyway, her channel really is about equipping you to be able to stand and continue to pray and intercede for your family and your marriage when there's an enemy out there that's trying to kill, steal, and destroy. And most of the time we feel like we want to give up. And sometimes we just can't see on the other side of what we see in the natural. And this is what this is all about. So her devotional was, what if God doesn't answer your prayer? So that hit me right off the bat, because there's so many times that we can say, I've prayed, I've fasted, I've done everything. There's nothing that I can see that I'm doing that might be causing this not to come forth. And we just don't know what God is doing behind the scenes. There's so many times that I have prayed for my marriage, for my family, for a situation, honestly, for the whole situation with my special needs daughter. When I first entered into that role, I didn't know what I was doing. Although I've been a seasoned mom and I had, worked with, almost 1,000 teens in our outreach, I wasn't prepared for what God was bringing my husband and I with Gracie. And I just wasn't in a place in my own life. I wasn't healthy emotionally, spiritually, physically, relationally, and then this happens. And so I just wasn't able to navigate that. And it set me down this path of very deep depression, anxiety, and even feeling suicidal. My whole story that I share is about God redeeming me from that and showing me what my real purpose is, and what a blessing in disguise Gracie actually was, and how her coming into my life actually helped to save my life and show me purpose in my life. Not that I didn't have purpose before, but it's just a different season. It's a different purpose. And my heart goes out to those moms that feel unseen, unheard. They may have been praying for a situation for a long time and they just don't see the other side of that. So a couple of things, I'm going to look down and read here what she's saying, because I don't want to misinterpret it. She's saying that, do you still trust God? So one thing that I would say is, even in my darkest seasons, I did still trust God. But the problem is that I wanted to also be the one that was working things out. Instead of just completely surrendering it, I felt like I had to do something to make that prayer come along faster. Or maybe I was doing something wrong that was the reason why God was withholding that blessing from me. But she says that, do you trust God? And she said, number one, God never changes. He never changes. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He's never going to change. So if he says he's going to do something, he will fulfill on his promises. He cannot be defeated. There's not an enemy in hell that can defeat God. Satan is not the opposite of God. He's not like the opposite power. He has no power. God is the almighty creator of the universe, the almighty being. There is nothing that matches him. He's not against Satan. A lot of times we get that mixed up, okay? You know, that's a whole other video of explaining, like, why would God allow that? But here's what I do know, okay, when he doesn't take something away. He always has a purpose in it. His redeeming power over my life has allowed me to walk through the hardships in peace. So what I wasn't able to do before is I can do now. What I wasn't able to do, because I continued to trust in God, because I continued to press in, because I continued to have to re-surrender it all the time, especially when I was getting into my own agenda, my own opinions, my own pride, God had to, kind of wait a little bit on me to get myself together. But here's what I learned in the waiting season. So if you're somebody out there that has been praying and you're in the waiting season and it seems long and treacherous and there is no change, I promise you God is doing something behind the scenes that you can't see. I promise you he's doing something in you that you will be able to look back and almost be unrecognizable. I shared this yesterday. Unrecognizable who you are. And you'll look back and you're like, wow, I can handle situations that I wasn't able to before. Something that would have taken me out for weeks or months. I can handle, with just a quick turnaround in a few hours or even a few moments. Honestly, now I can do it in a few moments and pull myself together again. God will do what he promised. She goes on to say, we must continue to trust him. The work that is occurring, it is in you. Don't give up on God in the season. He is working on you. Okay, he's increasing resilience. I learned my resilience was increased in God. When you actively choose to wait on God, you are choosing to believe that he is in control and will provide for your needs even when you don't see immediate answers. Greater patience. I definitely have greater patience. That was not one of my strong points before. The process of waiting can teach you to be patient and not rush into solutions, trusting that God's timing is perfect. She goes on to say, deepen faith. This has definitely been a very big one for me. As you wait, you are forced to rely on your faith and not on your own understanding, which can strengthen your overall trust in God. For sure, my faith is deepened. For sure, my trust is deepened because of the waiting season. He didn't just give me what I wanted. It's the same thing when we're parents. If we just give our kids everything they want when they ask, then they're never going to learn to wait, never going to learn to wait for something better. You know what I mean? If we're always just giving them that fast food mentality, they're never going to wait for the banquet. They're never going to wait for something that is more nourishing for them. If we just constantly give them dollar store treats instead of waiting for something that is, better for them. Spiritual growth, waiting on God can be a time of introspective and reflection, allowing you to focus on your relationship with him and grow spiritually. God had to pull me out of stuff so that I could focus on him and build my spiritual man. I think everything stems from your spiritual man. I think a lot of times why people, even businesses, aren't thriving or they might fail is because they haven't worked on their inner man, their spiritual man. They're working on everything external. They're working on the business. They're working on the branding. They're working on all the stuff. They're working on their skills, but they're not working on the inner person, not healing the trauma. They're not healing the stuff from their past. So they just kind of push it aside and they carry it along with them as this heavy baggage, and it will come out in what you do if you don't go back and deal with that inner spiritual growth. A perspective shift. I talked about this too this week. Waiting can help you see a situation from a broader perspective, understanding that God's plan may be difficult from what you different from what you initially expected. What I thought was my prison, what was like, this heavy burden that I was going to carry, actually became my promised land. It became something that was my greatest purpose. It drew out something in me and the person in me that is better today because I went through that, because God brought that into my life. So, he didn't necessarily answer all my prayers. I would say most of the time he doesn't answer them the way I want. But he always answers them in the way that is the right timing for me and the way that is best for me. The things that will be better for me. And also for him to get the glory. It's not about me and what I've done and what I've accomplished and what hoops I've jumped through and what I's and T's I've dotted and crossed. It's not about that. Ultimately, this is about him creating you into the image of him so that you can navigate this world of, treacherous terrain of stuff we've got to go through. I always use that term of extreme parenting or difficult marriages or health issues or honestly just difficult people that come in and out of our lives. We are not equipped to do that without him. There are people that can say that they are, but honestly, at the core of who you are, we were created to walk in union with God. We were created in his image. We were created to trust and rely on him. So if you're doing anything outside of that, there's something missing. You might have fleeting moments where you feel happy. Okay, and remember, happiness is based on circumstances. Joy is based on Jesus. Joy is based on having a peace that surpasses all understanding in the midst of the difficult situations. That your character doesn't change just because a storm comes. That you're deeply rooted in your faith, and it doesn't matter what comes up against you. You don't waver. You're not tossed to and fro every time somebody comes with a new word for you. Okay? You're solid in who you are and who God has called you to be. All of this comes from waiting. All of this comes from not getting our prayers answered right away. All of this character building comes from walking through hard seasons. It's the building of the faith muscle. It's building of the character muscle. All of that. So she goes on to say the final thoughts. The greatest thing that God has given me is a beautiful spiritual perspective that makes ever change in my life I'm sorry, let me reread that. The greatest thing that God has given me is a beautiful spiritual perspective that makes every challenge in my life a for me situation. Getting to know God will allow you to weather every storm and continue to hold on to what Satan is telling you and let go of it. Today, shift your perspective. God will do as he promised. He is leading you. Thank you again, 𝗂𝗍𝗃. Thank you so much. I will link you in the comments. In the show description below. Thank you so much for your heart, for your obedience, for blessing me, even though you don't even know who I am, and all the people that God brings across your path. I just pray for abundant blessings on you and continue prayers for your family and your ministry. And I just thank you for those that have watched to this long. This is a little bit longer today, but it was really important. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for supporting the channel. Please share this with a mom who needs it. Please take the time to do the things, like, subscribe, share a comment, share your story of how God has had you in a waiting season. And I just thank you for taking this time this morning to be with me. And the creator of the universe is absolutely obsessed with you and loves you. And he has a purpose for you even in the waiting season. And I love you. And I can't wait to see you again next time. Have an awesome day.